Hi, and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today we have a 2012 Hyundai Santa Fe with a 3.5 liter, and we're going to be replacing the alternator. This particular model is very vague. It doesn't really give you much information on the repair program and the procedure. So let's get started, and we'll see how it goes. First thing we're going to do is we're going to pull the wheel off on the right side, and we're going to remove a little plastic cover that's underneath the bottom to gain access to the tensioner for the fan belt. So let's get over to the other side and we'll see how it's going to go. Okay, as you can see, we have the wheel off, and this is the cover I was telling you about in here. I started taking out the bolts already. Underneath here there's actually 4 10mm bolts up inside here, including one that's all the way up in the front right there, to remove this cover. So what you do is after you get it off, you just take the cover and you just slide it to the back and pull it right out of here. It gives you some access to the tensioner. The tensioner on this particular case is right here, and the way you get it off is you take I think it's a 19mm socket, and you put a 19mm socket on here and you release the tension on it. So let me get that socket and we'll give it a shot. Okay, now this is a hydraulic tensioner, just so you know, so you don't want to pull on it too hard. You just want to keep constant pressure on it, and it'll slowly start to release. You'll notice it as I do it. Just keep constant pressure, and you'll see the belt starts to release. And as soon as you let go of it, obviously it's going to spring back. So keep tension on it, pull it down as far as you can, and then you remove the belt, and you release it, nice and easy. All right, and that's how you remove the fan belt from the car. But first we're going to replace that, we're going to remove that alternator. And the way we're going to start with the alternator is we're going to make sure the battery is disconnected up top, which is already done. We're going to remove this bolt right here. We're going to take that out, and then we're going to go up top. So let me grab a wrench and we're going to get started on that. Okay, this lower bolt is a 14mm bolt, so we're going to break it loose and we're going to take it totally out of the car. Sorry about that light there. Once you break it loose, you can normally just take it out by hand, especially on a later model car. It's not that rusty yet. All right, we'll take the bolt all the way out, and we're going to need this bolt. We're going to be replacing it later. We're going to reuse this bolt later on. All right, so I'll take that and just relocate that for now. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to lower the car down, and we'll remove what we need to remove up top. So let's lower the car down and we'll continue. Okay, as you know by now, I'm sure you realize that alternator is in a real bad spot. What we're going to do now is we're going to try to gain access to it. It looks to me like the alternator is going to have to come out through this way, and we're going to have to come out this side over here by the battery on this side over here. The procedure is very vague. It just tells you to remove the alternator. So let's remove some of this stuff, and we're going to give it a shot. We'll see how it goes. First thing I'm going to do is to gain access to it, I'm going to remove this cover right here. We're just going to take these 3 screws out here, and we're going to start to remove the fan assembly. So let's grab some tools and proceed. The way you take these out is to just fill up that screw. You unscrew the Phillips head screw, and we have to pull that plastic piece out down below. Again, I want to remind you, your battery is disconnected, so you don't have any issues with that. All right, unscrew the screw all the way out, and you just pull that plastic piece right out. We're going to need to use these over again, so don't lose them. All right, we're going to take this out of the way, give us a little more room. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the fan assembly down on the bottom right here. I'll show you where the screws are located. This pulls right up and out. They just slide out. But underneath here is where you're going to find the bolts that actually secure it in. On this side right over here, you'll see a 10mm here. And most likely there's going to be another 10mm down here underneath the hose. You see it right down here. So we're going to take out that other 10mm down there also. And we're going to get this fan assembly out of the way so we have a little more room to work down here. So let me get the things out of there. Okay, what we're going to do first is we're going to take this piece right here. There's a little lock tab right here. You push that lock tab in, and you just rock this back and forth, and you can unplug the cooling fans, and we'll just put that off to the side like that for now. And I'm going to get in here and take that 10mm bolt out. And once you break it loose, you'll most likely just take it out by hand. Again, this is a learning experience for you and for me. Never done one before, and the listing, the procedure is actually very vague. Alright, we got that one out. Now we'll go around to this side over here, and we're going to do the exact same thing on the bottom right down here. It's a little bit tight, so I'm going to get in there and we'll come right back. Okay, I was incorrect. That bolt down on the side right there is not the one that holds the fan shroud in place. It's actually one you can't even see it. It's down underneath. You have to go by feel. It's underneath the bottom. Right where this screw is right here, it's right up inside there. So we need to get in here with the ratchet and remove it. Okay, let me do that. We'll come right back. Okay, after removing those bolts up underneath the bottom here, the fan shroud itself was still not loose. So what I had to do is I had to remove this cover up in the front right here, take out these screws in here. Those are the Phillips head screws, and there's a 10mm bolt here as well as here. Took those out, and then what I was able to do is to pull this back so I could gain access. Let me get a light down here and I'll show you. So I can gain access to where you see where these screws were right here on there. There was 3 of them actually, 3 Phillips head screws that held the shroud in place. Now after getting that shroud, those bolts out, the shroud is a little bit looser right here. And what I'm going to do is you just take this clip here and you bend it back a little bit, and you can pull the shroud up a little bit. And we're going to do the same thing down on that corner down inside there, and let's see if we can get this out of there. What I decided to do too is I'm going to remove this upper radiator hose here. So we just pull that clamp back. We drain the cooling system out through the valve on the bottom. There's a little valve down on the bottom of the radiator down here. We drain the antifreeze out. And we can remove this hose here. And then we're going to get down underneath the bottom over here. And we're going to remove the hose where it attaches to the radiator. You can't even see the clamp down there. So they make a tool like this so you can get underneath there and you can actually hook it on the clamp and pull it out. So let me get that clamp out. I'm going to get this hose off, and hopefully we have enough room to slide the fan shroud over slightly this way and get that alternator out. So let me get this hose out of the way and we'll be right back. Okay, this is what it looks like now with the hose out of the way. So what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect the upper bolt on the top right over here on the alternator. We're going to remove these electrical connectors, and I hope we have enough room to pull it this way and get it out of here, but we're going to see how it goes. Okay, what I did is I actually took that bolt out to the top of the alternator up here. That's, I believe, it was 14mm. I disconnected the oxygen sensor to clear this area out here, and I removed 2 brackets that hold electrical wiring to that in place. So now we're going to try to get this alternator out, and we're going to hopefully be able to slide this fan over a little bit, enough to pull this out. So let me get in here. This is actually unbolted, but it's pretty tight, so I got to get in there with a pry bar and then pull it out of there. So let's see how it goes. Pretty unbolted, so I'm just going to try to get it out of here. Be very careful because you don't want it to fall and damage the radiator, so make sure you have your hand behind it, and it should pry out pretty easily. Just be careful you don't drop it and damage something. Alright, even prying this out of the location was a little bit of a pain in the rear end because of the air conditioner down the bottom. We didn't want to damage that. So let's give it a try, and hopefully we can get this thing out of here. So I'm gonna use 2 hands, and let's see if we can pull it out. This one here is a rough one, so you know, take your time, watch it don't damage your radiator, and hopefully you do okay. I'm not going to bore you with the procedure to put it back together. You just obviously know you're going to reverse the procedure you just did to take it out. So let's grab that new alternator. Let's get this bad boy back in there, and we're going to wrap this job up. So once I get it back in there, I'll come back and I'll show you how to put that fan belt back on. We laid the alternator back in there now, and now we're going to start the procedure to put it back together. First thing we're going to do is lay the alternator in, and we're going to catch our upper bolt through here just to secure it in place. And we're going to catch all the bolts by hand before we do anything else. Alright, so tighten that bolt in. We're going to put the one in down the bottom also. Okay, now that we have the alternator laid back in there and the bolts are snug, they're not tight yet. I'm going to tighten them up momentarily. We're going to reconnect the electrical connectors down here too. So we're going to do that, and we'll come right back. We're just going to put all the wiring that we previously removed back into its location, plug the sensors back in, and then we'll come back and we're going to put this fan assembly back inside here where it belongs. So let me do that. Okay, just wanted to go a couple of things I wanted to show you. The alternator is bolted back in. The cables are tightened up. The plug is plugged back into the alternator and they're snapped in. The dipstick tube is back in where it belongs. All of the electrical connectors are back in the harnesses the way they belong. And we're just going to put the upper hose back on, fill it with antifreeze, and then we're going to go down and put the fan belt on, and we're going to wrap this job up. So let's get the hose on, and then I'll show you how to put that belt on, and we'll be all set. Okay, now we're going to take our new belt and we're going to loop the belt back around the way that it came off, and we're going to get this job wrapped up and get it out of here. Alright, just snake the belt back through the way you took it off, leaving the last piece down here to put on last. Alright, it is a pain in the rear end to get that belt up in there, but when you have it up there, you just pull down on the tensioner and you hold the tensioner, put the belt onto all the pulleys where it came off, you release it, and you're all set. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to put that cover on here. Okay, last thing we're going to do is we're just going to put this cover back on that we previously took off, and put the wheel back on, and we're going to wrap this job up. So remember, you got the 4 bolts that you took out. We're going to replace them, and we'll be all set. Alright, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.